Now, police officers are vilified even if they've done everything right. That's according to the boss of the Police Federation. Writing in the Times, John Apter said his officers are damned if they do and damned if they don't, as members of the public think they're experts after viewing mobile phone clips which do not paint the full picture. In recent weeks, the UK police force has come under increasing pressure following their enforcement of the coronavirus lockdown, as well as dealing with Black Lives Matter protests. But why are the police damned for trying to protect the public in good faith? Let's speak with John Apter, chair of the police, national chair of the Police Federation. Afternoon to you, John. I put out a piece on Twitter myself the other day. There was an arrest taking place, and the usual thing, somebody has filmed it. And the comment that I put with it, John, was, the police now go out with a film crew around them and full running commentary, which seems to be part of the problem here.
Absolutely. And what I would say, Ian, is that this isn't the majority of the public. We know that silent majority are still very supportive of the police. And look, I don't expect, and my colleagues don't expect, blind loyalty. I'm not saying we always get things right, but we are by no way as bad as a minority portray us to be. And I think what really gets me more than frustrated is we are seeing more and more short snippets of interactions with the police and members of the public going on social media. And then the armchair critics who don't know the full critics are making some pretty bold assumptions which are incredibly damaging to policing. And some members of the public might take that as fact.
Yeah.
And what with that and some other stuff that's going on, certainly in some mainstream media, the vilification of policing and my colleagues who are doing a really difficult job, the best they can, but it's a really difficult job. And they do feel at the moment they are damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. So I just felt passionate enough to write out about it and speak out about it.
It's interesting because one of the observations I think I've made reasonably, John, over the last few weeks on this is, this is about how some people see the police. Of course, there will be some people who just don't like the police. And I noticed that in some of these videos, people sort of referring to the police if they're trying to cuff somebody or, get them under control in a volatile situation. And they are attacking the police verbally in the same way that you might attack a stranger who's trying to... It's almost as if they don't recognise that this is the police doing this, as if it could just be their neighbours at it. And I'm thinking, well, hang on, no, these are police officers. They're trying to stop somebody who's, often a classic one the other day, you may have seen it, the guy's got a 14-inch knife in his pocket when they eventually managed to get him to the ground, etc. And that sort of commentary, why is it taking three of them? That sort of seems to be a classic response.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is becoming more and more of an issue. And, police officers, we expect in the current way of the world that we are going to be video doing our job. But what I do take exception to, and I think the vast majority of sensible people will recognise, that a few seconds of video clip does not give you the whole context. And what I'm urging certainly police chiefs to do is come out, and many are, certainly in the Metropolitan Police now, of coming out and actually explaining, defending my colleague's position. Now, if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. But I think it's becoming almost a sport now for some individuals to video any interaction and manipulate it and twist it for their own means. And that is damaging to policing. It really is damaging. Yeah. And my plea to that silent majority of the public who do support my colleagues is they understand that policing is tough and policing is difficult. And I say again, Ian, we won't always get it right because policing is complex. But I need those people to show their support, not blindly, but show their support for my colleagues because, policing is not in a great place at the moment where, my colleagues are feeling it. And that's not a good place to be, especially when you are doing your absolute best.
Yeah, and I've noticed that, there seems to be because of the horrendous events that happened in America, this phrase, I can't breathe, seems to have become a phrase that's now wheeled out almost, when someone is being given a parking ticket, for goodness sake. I've seen some extraordinary cases where either the individual is shouting, I can't breathe, when clearly there is nothing connected to that happening in the video, or somebody in the background shouting out, he can't breathe. This is really unhelpful.
And not only is it unhelpful, it undermines the process that we're trying to follow. And what I would like to see as well, the vast majority of police officers have body-worn cameras now. One of the best introductions into policing over the past 10 years because it brings some balance. I want to see more forces putting out that video footage, except if it's going through a court case, they can't until at the end of the court case. But what generally you will find from those body-worn images is certainly not the picture that has been portrayed by some for their own means. Because colleagues are doing a really difficult job in difficult times. The body-worn footage shows time and time again that officers are proportionate, professional, and reasonable in their interactions, bearing in mind the information that they've got or the circumstances that they've come across. Somebody being violent in the street, offering a weapon to police officers. The police officers disarm them, put them to the ground, and only then will that video clip be shown by their mates. Yeah. Which, without the context, it's incredibly damaging.
Indeed. John, it's always great to have you on. Thank you. John Apter, National Chair of the Police Federation, with us here on Talk Radio. It is, that phrase, doing my nut in. I see these videos. There was one the other day, and I come back to the point that I just made to John Apter. It seems that there is a sort of curious belief, because people don't recognise the police or the status of the police. And you heard the race-baiting half-wit that we played the other day from Oxford, suggesting the police should be out there with the council picking up litter. Such was her disrespect for a police system. They would, of course, be the first people she would call if she was in need of help. And because people have that view, when they see the police carrying out an arrest of somebody, and it may not be pretty, it's an arrest by definition. That's never going to look pretty. It's a huge statement on the fact that, look, here's a situation, something's gone wrong in our world. Our equilibrium as human beings has slightly gone off kilter for a second, and there's a dispute, and therefore the system known as the police have had to come along and put handcuffs on the person accused of being part of it. It's not meant to look pretty. And of course, in so many of those cases, the person fights back. And you try being a single person on your own when somebody is wiggling away for their life, literally running for their, when I say their life, you take my point, they're fighting for their freedom, as in their life, because they want to get away, they want to run away from this, and they're kicking and punching as much as they can. That might take 3 people to do that. It's not 3 people piling in like you're in a pub scrap. It's often for the safety of the perpetrator anyway. You can carry out an arrest efficiently when you have more numbers to do it. But because it looks, here's 3 on 1. Somebody shouted out in the video, it's not fair. There's 1 of him and 3 of you. It's the police, mate. It's not a fight down at the local Wetherspoons. It's the police trying to arrest somebody who's clearly hell-bent on running away, probably because he's done something wrong. And then all the shouts of, he can't breathe. The guy was breathing fine. Nobody had their knees or anything anywhere at all. 0344 499 1000. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? Where do the police go? It's interesting. The John Apter said the perception of the police is in a really difficult place right now. None of their making. This has kind of been an invented narrative that we've got out there now because of what happened with Black Lives Matter in the States and where they've tried to force a kind of an equivalence over here, where there is simply no data that is likely to show anything like the equivalence. There are issues, and we know there can be issues, and some you can begin to explore the explanations, and others you might find no explanation. But the idea we've got a Minneapolis-like problem on our own doorstep is complete and utter bunkum. It's just simply not true. But that's been what the police have now got to deal with. So whenever they go out, particularly in some areas, anything they do is viewed through the prism of police brutality. They can't win that. So you get somebody on the ground to put a pair of cuffs on them. Straight, you've got people shouting, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it in my life." Yeah, trying to handcuff a criminal, mate. He's got a big old knife on him there. Did you not notice that bit?